Good afternoon, I'm Bakhtiar Sanov. You are watching A News, and now the major stories making headlines today. The United States and Ukraine sign a long-awaited natural resources deal. Donald Trump asks business chiefs for a little bit of time as the U.S. economy shrinks. D8 countries to use unified payment platform to boost trade. The United States and Ukraine have finalized a landmark deal giving Washington access to Ukraine's natural resources in exchange for reconstruction support. After a month of tense talks and unexpected delays, the deal also establishes a joint investment fund to aid the country's recovery from the war.
The United States and Ukraine have signed a deal for the joint exploitation of Ukraine's energy and mineral resources following several months of tense negotiations. This follows a breakthrough reached days ago during a private meeting between the two leaders at Pope Francis's funeral in the Vatican City. The initial agreement, which was expected to be signed in February, collapsed after US President Donald Trump accused Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of risking World War III. The US Treasury Department announced the agreement alongside the creation of a new reconstruction investment fund to support Ukraine's recovery. The Treasury also issued a statement acknowledging the significant financial and material aid Washington has provided Kiev since the war with Russia began in 2022. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko, was in Washington to finalize the deal. She says it would be a 50-50 partnership, with Ukraine retaining ownership of its resources. She also says that the fund would attract global investment. US President Donald Trump stressed that the agreement was necessary to secure American investments and ensure a return to American aid.
And I didn't want to make a complicated deal. I didn't want to make a deal that couldn't be made because Ukraine doesn't have very much money. They're going through a very bad period of time. It's been brutal. But I felt very foolish being a judge, so I said, well, we want something for our efforts beyond what you would think would be acceptable. And we said rare earth. They have very good rare earth. As you know, we're looking for rare earth all the time. Rare earth is called rare for a reason. And they have a lot. And we made a deal where our money is secure, where we can start digging and doing what we have to do. It's also good for them because you'll have an American presence at the site, Chris. And the American presence will, I think, keep a lot of bad actors out of the country, or certainly out of the area where we're doing the digging. So we made a deal, and I assume they're going to honor the deal. I put Scott in charge, and Scott's done it beautifully, but we haven't really seen the fruits of that deal yet. I suspect we will.
According to a draft of the agreement, Ukraine removed a clause that would have required it to repay past US military assistance. While the deal still needs to be ratified by Ukrainian lawmakers, it includes new US support, such as air defense systems. The agreement also grants the United States privileged access to Ukraine's vast deposits of natural resources, including graphite, aluminium, titanium, oil, and gas. These are vital materials for clean energy, military industries, and high-tech infrastructure.
U.S. President Donald Trump is calling for patience as the U.S. economy posts its first quarterly contraction in 3 years. Speaking to business leaders, he remained optimistic about the rebound and promised sweeping economic reforms.
President Donald Trump on Wednesday urged business leaders to be patient as the U.S. economy recorded a first quarter contraction, calling for a little bit of time to revive growth. Speaking at an event promoting investment in the United States, Trump acknowledged the economic dip and the political toll of his tariff policies, but expressed confidence that a rebound was imminent.
In the first quarter GDP numbers just out today, core GDP, now we're removing distortions from imports, inventories, and government spending, was up plus 3%. But this is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th. And I think you have to get us a little bit of time to get moving, but this is the Biden economy. But we still had and we've had a lot of things happen since November 5th that helped this economy.
Trump remained optimistic despite the setback, pointing to continued strength in consumer spending and investment as early signs of recovery. He criticised previous climate-related spending initiatives, referring to them as unnecessary and harmful to the deficit, and vowed to eliminate such programs. Looking ahead, Trump pledged sweeping economic reforms, including what he described as the largest tax cuts in US history and unprecedented business initiatives. He also reflected on his previous term, portraying it as the most successful of any US presidency.
US President Donald Trump says that more than 100 countries, including India, Japan and South Korea, are in talks for potential trade agreements with the United States. Speaking during a News Nation town hall, he stressed that there is no rush to finalize these deals, as the United States is already benefiting from existing tariffs. The comments come as the Commerce Department reported a 0.3% annual decline in GDP for the first quarter, marking the first economic contraction in 3 years. The drop is largely attributed to a surge in imports, as companies rush to get ahead of sweeping tariffs on autos, steel and aluminum. Hundreds of Panamanians took to the streets of Panama City on Tuesday, protesting against a new security agreement with the United States. The deal was signed in mid-April and allows American troops to be temporarily stationed in Panama for joint security operations. Demonstrators say the agreement threatens Panama's sovereignty and could increase U.S. influence over the Panama Canal, which has been under Panamanian control since 1999. Tensions have increased after U.S. President Donald Trump said he wants to take back control of this strategic waterway and let U.S. ships pass through free of charge. A large-scale Russian drone attack on the Ukrainian city of Odessa has left at least 2 people dead and more than 15 others injured, according to local authorities.
2 people were killed and more than a dozen injured in the latest attack on Odessa, one of Ukraine's key port cities. Emergency services reported that the strike caused fires and significant damage to critical infrastructure. The attack damaged residential high-rise buildings, a supermarket, and a school, according to Odessa Regional Governor Ole Kipa. Ukraine's state-owned railway company reported damage from the overnight drone attacks to its tracks, the contact network, and 3 freight cars. It was also confirmed that one of the individuals killed in the Odessa strike was a railway worker who died in his home during the attack. Ukraine's Air Force stated that Russia launched 5 ballistic missiles and 170 drones in the overnight assault. Of those, 74 drones were shot down, while another 68 reportedly failed to reach their targets, likely due to electronic warfare countermeasures. The status of the missiles and the remaining 28 drones was not specified. Russia has not yet commented on the attack.
Following Russia's unilateral declaration of a 3-day ceasefire in May in honor of the Victory Day, Ukraine dismissed it as an attempt to manipulate, saying that the right course of action towards peace would be a 30-day ceasefire. Both Moscow and Kiev are saying they are open to talks, while Washington is threatening to abandon its peace efforts unless there is real progress.
Ukraine is signalling readiness for negotiations, but not on Russia's terms. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said peace talks can begin in any format if Moscow demonstrates genuine intent, not what he called peace populism or a propaganda ceasefire for the May 9th parade. He stated that Russia must stop talking about its readiness for peace and start acting by agreeing unconditionally to a real and durable ceasefire. Moscow has declared a unilateral 3-day ceasefire starting May 8th ahead of Victory Day, a symbolic holiday in Russia. But Ukraine's leadership swiftly rejected the gesture. President Volodymyr Zelensky called it another attempt at manipulation, and Kiev insists that peace must begin with a ceasefire lasting at least 30 days.
If Russia is so much willing to stop the war. Why don't we start the ceasefire today? Why wait till 8th of May? Peace without justice is not peace, it's a surrender. And this is what actually Russia wants. They want Ukraine to surrender. They want Ukraine to capitulate. So we have bad news for Russia. Ukraine will not surrender. Again, this is our country. This is our home.
In New York, France pushed for stronger international pressure at the UN Security Council.
I call upon President Putin. Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. France cherishes the hope that the Council will unanimously demand a comprehensive, immediate, unconditional ceasefire.
Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia insisted Moscow remains open to diplomacy and that President Putin's truce could pave the way for direct talks.
Such a step could be the prelude to direct peace talks between the Russian Federation and Ukraine without any preconditions whatsoever.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov reiterated that Moscow's goal is a sustained long-term solution and that the peace process continues. However, he claimed there has been no response from Kyiv so far. Across the Atlantic, the US is also recalibrating its stance.
We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
While Moscow points to temporary truces, Kyiv insists only a full and unconditional ceasefire can unlock real negotiations. With France calling Russia the sole obstacle and the United States warning it may step back from its mediating role, the spotlight is now on Moscow's next move and whether words will finally turn into action.
Now we are focusing on Europe's ongoing and complex struggle to reduce its dependence on Russian energy. Despite bold moves to diversify energy sources, ramp up LNG imports and invest in renewables, several EU countries remain tethered to Russian gas, oil and nuclear fuel in various forms. While the bloc has made strides in reducing direct pipeline gas imports, new vulnerabilities and dependencies are emerging, some economic and some political. Joining us now to unpack the latest developments and assess whether Europe is truly on the path to energy independence is Gary Cartwright, editor of EU Today. Mr. Cartwright, thank you very much for joining this discussion.
Pleasure.
Mr. Cartwright, has Europe really weaned itself off Russian energy, or has it just changed the form and channels through which it receives it?
Well, the European Union has put an enormous amount of effort and thought into talking about it, and has issued some fairly sternly worded press statements. That's about as far as it goes. Russian LNG is flowing into the European Union. It's coming through third-party countries. We understand some of it may be coming through American companies. There has been no real action taken, although now we learn that the European Commission is going to ban the member states from entering into any new energy contracts with Russia, or at least it's considering that. It hasn't actually enacted it, and it's not imposing a ban. It's thinking about it, and it really sums up for me the way that the European Commission is dealing with this whole problem. It's thinking about it.
So liquefied natural gas imports have surged in recent years, especially from the United States and Qatar. But does this really count as energy independence when prices remain volatile and infrastructure is still under strain?
No. Europe's energy independence is a generation or more away, I would argue. The Commission is sometimes it's tying its own hands. I mean, as much as I support the idea of the European Green Deal, and I really do support this, it has to be suspended now. We have to drop this and focus on winning a war. And make no mistake, the West is not merely supporting Ukraine. The West is in this up to its elbows now. In my own personal circle. I know people whose families are there, and not just Ukrainians. We're in this now.
So some EU member states continue to import Russian LNG and even nuclear fuel. Why has it been so difficult to form a unified and consistent EU-wide policy on cutting energy ties with Moscow?
Well, very often the European decision-making process is hampered by the need for unanimity. And we have within the EU, we have unfortunately a couple of member states who openly are blocking any kind of initiatives that have to be taken at EU level. Hungary is the one that obviously comes to mind. It's not unusual for Viktor Orban to attend summits in Brussels, having flown from Moscow directly, or after being in Brussels to fly back to Moscow. Completely blatant about it, completely shameless. I would say at least he's being honest. I mean, he's not trying to hide what he's doing. But when the decision process can be derailed by one person, it's never going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Cartwright, thank you for talking to A News. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Germany's military spending has rapidly increased, making it the world's fourth largest military spender, the highest the country has been since the end of the Cold War.
Germany has become Europe's biggest military spender for the first time since the end of the Cold War. Berlin's defense spending soared to $88.5 billion in 2024. That's a 28% increase from 2023 and an 89% rise since 2015. The country is now spending 1.9% of its GDP, approaching NATO's current target of 2%, and making it the world's fourth largest military spender. Germany's rapid military growth can be attributed to a special defense fund announced in 2022, which allowed for significant arms procurement and military research initiatives. In 2024, Germany also provided $7.7 billion in military aid to Ukraine, making it the second largest donor to Ukraine's defense efforts behind the United States. On the global scale, the United States remains the world's largest defense spender, outlaying $997 billion last year. China takes second place with $314 billion, and Russia takes third with $149 billion.
South Korea's Supreme Court has overturned a ruling that cleared presidential frontrunner Lee Jae-myung of violating election law. The decision throws his eligibility into question just weeks before the June 3rd snap vote.
South Korea's Supreme Court overturned a lower court ruling that had cleared Lee Jae-myung, the leading presidential candidate, of violating the country's election law. The decision introduces significant uncertainty about whether he can remain in the race ahead of the June 3rd election. Lee, who represents the Liberal Democratic Party, was accused of making false public statements during a previous election campaign, a charge that can disqualify a candidate from holding public office. In March, an appeals court found him not guilty. Prosecutors, however, challenged that ruling, and now the Supreme Court has determined that Lee did violate election law by stating false facts. The top court did not issue a final verdict, but sent the case back to the appeals court for further review. There is no set deadline for the lower court to revisit the case, and legal proceedings typically take months, raising doubts about whether a ruling will come before Election Day. Lee's candidacy has been closely watched. He is seen as the frontrunner in the snap presidential election triggered by the impeachment and removal of Conservative President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon was ousted in April after South Korea's Constitutional Court upheld his impeachment over the imposition of martial law in December. Lee narrowly lost to Yoon in the 2022 presidential race by the smallest margin in South Korea's history. Since then, he led his Democratic Party to a landslide parliamentary victory and stepped down as party leader in early April to focus on his presidential campaign.
Wildfires have broken out near Jerusalem, forcing evacuations and disrupting key Memorial Day and Independence Day events. The blaze has led to road closures and an urgent international appeal for help.
Wildfires erupted on the outskirts of Jerusalem on Wednesday, driven by extreme heat and strong winds. The fires forced the evacuation of 3 communities and shut down parts of Route 1, the main highway connecting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Videos showed thick smoke blanketing the hills, and in some cases drivers were seen abandoning their vehicles or navigating through walls of fire. At least 13 people have been injured, according to police, though no deaths have been reported. Fire and rescue services, supported by military search and rescue teams, are battling the flames with aircraft and helicopters. With Israel marking Memorial Day and preparing for its 77th Independence Day, many ceremonies were cancelled, including the main state event in Jerusalem. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Italy and Croatia will send firefighting planes, while Israel has also requested help from Greece, Cyprus and Bulgaria.
Turkey is marking a significant milestone in its energy diplomacy. For the first time, Turkish Petroleum is investing in oil exploration in Europe, following a landmark deal with Hungary's energy giant MOL. The agreement not only strengthens bilateral ties between Ankara and Budapest, but also opens the door to wider cooperation in the energy sector.
Turkey's national oil company Turkish Petroleum Corporation, or TPAO, has partnered with Hungary's MOL group to explore and produce oil at the 2 sites in Hungary. The collaboration, which represents the first Turkish oil and gas investment in Europe, will focus on the onshore Buzak and Tamasi blocks. This step follows the joint bidding agreement signed last year between the 2 energy firms, culminating in a successful bidding process that secured TPAO's exploration rights. The deal was cemented with a concession agreement signed by TPAO General Manager Ahmet Türkoğlu and MOL Chairman Zsolt Hernadi. Turkish Energy and Natural Resources Minister Alparslan Bayraktar and Hungarian Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister Péter Szijjártó attended the ceremony in Budapest. During the event, Minister Bayraktar highlighted that energy cooperation has become a cornerstone of Turkey-Hungary relations. He said that the partnership between the 2 organizations represents a key milestone in deepening bilateral energy collaboration and is expected to grow not just in Hungary, but also in third countries across multiple regions. Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó echoed that sentiment, underlining the strategic importance of Turkey in Hungary's energy security. He said the new agreement marks the beginning of a broader cooperation in oil production, both within Hungary and beyond.
The Developing Eight Countries Economic Cooperation Organization, also known as D8, is aiming to boost mutual trade among its member states to $500 billion by 2030. Attending the Iran Expo in Tehran, D8 Secretary General Isiaka Abdulkadir Imam announced plans for a new cross-border payment system and emphasized the organization's expanding global footprint, especially after Azerbaijan joined as the 9th member late last year.
Leaders of the member states of the Developing Eight Countries Economic Cooperation Organization, known as the D8, say they are committed to boosting mutual trade volume to $500 billion by 2030 at the latest. The group accepted Azerbaijan as a member at the 11th summit meeting held in Cairo in December last year, increasing the number of members to 9. The Secretary-General Isiaka Abdulkadir Imam says that a D8 payment system will be implemented and used across all member countries.
2 of our members are in Africa, 2, Azerbaijan and Turkey, are in Europe, and while the others are in Asia. So that's part of some of the challenges that we have. But we're trying to overcome that because it could be an opportunity for us to expand our trade opportunities across the 3 continents. So it is a challenge, but we're trying to see how we can transform it into an opportunity for us.
A key initiative now underway is the D8 payment system, a financial platform similar to Visa or MasterCard, but customized for exclusive use among the 9 member states.
We have been working on that, on a D8 payment system. We are collaborating with a company in Malaysia called Comeps to develop our own customized D8 payment system, something akin to your Visa card or MasterCard, but that will be tenable within only the 9 member states. So we are working on that, and inshallah, before the first quarter or latest half quarter of next year, it should become active.
The organization was founded by Turkey, Iran, Egypt, Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh and Nigeria at the Summit of Member States and Heads of Government held in Istanbul in 1997. With the Istanbul Declaration, the D8 maintains its existence as an international organization aimed at ensuring cooperation in development and increasing trade and cooperation between the member countries.
A new mass grave has been discovered in Azerbaijan's Khojaly. This discovery adds another painful chapter to the long-standing search for missing Azerbaijanis from the Khojaly massacre, a tragedy that claimed the lives of over 600 civilians in 1992. Zeynep Farizadeh reports more from Khojaly.
During a recent investigation, bone fragments belonging to at least 7 individuals found along the Askran-Khojaly road. All of them were civilians. Evidence shows they were tortured, tied up and buried. Experts from multiple state bodies, including forensic and archaeological teams, inspected the site. The Karabakh region had been the site of mass killings and burials since the First Karabakh War in the early 1990s. During the war, the Armenian military occupied Karabakh, a territory internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, and 7 adjacent regions, including Khojaly. The town was the site of a 2-hour Armenian offensive that killed 613 Azerbaijani civilians, including 106 women, 63 children and 70 elderly people. 487 others were seriously injured, according to Azerbaijani figures. Some 150 of the 1,275 Azerbaijanis that the Armenians captured during what has now been called the Khojaly massacre remain missing, 8 families being completely wiped out.
Technology and national pride came together in northern Cyprus. Held for the second time outside of Turkey, Technofest brought thousands of participants and tech enthusiasts to the Ercan airport in Nicosia. More details now from Aliye Aziz, reporting from northern Cyprus.
Today marks the exciting first day of the 2025 Technofest Aerospace and Technology Festival. Held this year at the old Ercan airport in Nicosia, the capital of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. This is the second time the festival is being held outside of Turkey, as the first was in Baku, Azerbaijan in 2022. This year, over 47,000 participants from 22 countries applied to take part in Technofest in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The skies came alive with roaring engines as fire jets and aerobatic teams performed breathtaking stunts, showcasing the latest in Turkish aviation. The Akıncı, Soloturk, Hurkuş aircraft, and the T-129ATAK helicopter amazed onlookers with their powerful displays. These aerial performances underscored Turkey's innovation, engineering skill, and pride in its aerospace and defense sectors. At the main stage, Technofest chairman and Baykar CTO Selçuk Bayraktar stressed the importance of Northern Cyprus as a beacon of tech progress. He also called for deeper cooperation across the Turkic world to foster innovation. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus President Ersin Tatar expressed hopes for Technofest to gain global recognition, emphasizing technology's role in construction, and thanked Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev for hosting Technofest 2022 in Baku. What's most exciting? This festival brings together innovation, inspiration, and national pride. You can feel the energy as people of all ages explore the future right here. This is Aliya Aziz, reporting from Nicosia, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, for A News.
That's all we have for this hour. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more.